Michael Nagy here with Jiggy Jag TV and DiscoveringBands.com. And for everyone watching, if you share this video on my channel and help support the awesome bands I feature. And today I'm here with Baron Misuraca from Carnivore AD. How you doing today?
Good, Michael. It's good to see you. Like I was saying before, it's great that we finally hooked up. This has been in the making here.
Yeah.
Starting off with James's show, and now here we are. So that's a cool thing.
Yes,
all
it's
the technical
great.
stuff has been dealt with. We're off to a good start.
Yes, I want to start off by asking, what made Carnivore continue and reform into Carnivore AD?
What made it continue into Carnivore AD?
Yeah.
Basically, I did. I contacted the original members. Actually, it was suggested to me by a mutual friend of ours. He had the crazy idea of kind of, doing a version of it or an extension of it. And I basically contacted them. We've all known each other for decades. We all go back, way back. I'm an original member of the band Sheer Terror, and we used to play with the original Carnivore when Pete was still alive, years ago. Back in places like CBGB's and Lemoore in New York City, all the classic hardcore and metal venues. So we all definitely had a past together. And again, like I mentioned, a mutual friend of ours came up with the idea. I contacted them. Everybody thought it was cool, and eventually we got together. The current version of the band now doesn't include the two original members due to career reasons and health issues and personal reasons. But we continue on with their blessing and with their guidance and their well wishes. So the bottom line is that the music needs to be heard. These are great songs that were written by Pete years back that are just as relevant now as they were, in the 80s when it was all done. And you should always be able to walk into a music venue or into a festival and hear this material. This band has nothing to do with us. It's all about those guys and about the material. And it's a tremendous honor for me to be doing this. And to be in my old friend's role here and recreating the sound. It's been a blast. So it's wonderful experiences. We were fortunate enough to have do a lot of touring and do a lot of the festivals in Europe and things like that, and some great festivals here in the United States as well. And now that the whole virus thing is starting to simmer down, we're back in the saddle now. Got a pretty big tour coming up in Europe next year that I'm very excited about. I don't think I'm allowed to discuss any details about it, but we're going out with two other pretty prominent bands in the metal and thrash genre that I've been a fan of, for a long time, and the other members of the band have as well. Again, I don't think I'm at liberty to announce it yet, but we're looking forward to that, and it's great to be having this conversation again in regard to shows and be able to get back out there and pick up where we left off. I don't need to say how crazy things have been here for everybody in the last year or so. I'm glad we're, reaching the tail end of it here. I almost feel like this is like a very Rip Van Winkle kind of a situation. Remember the Rip Van Winkle legend there, where the guy falls asleep for a couple of years and he wakes up later and like a chunk of his life is missing. That's kind of what I feel like right now. But I'm glad that we've all woken up. That's all I could say. We look forward to getting back out there, with Carnivore AD and some of the other projects that I'm doing as well. There's my original band Visaria that I've resurrected, and another project that actually got together during lockdown as a means to try to keep my sanity. A little something called Motor Plasma, which is a tribute band, a tribute to Motorhead and the Plasmatics. So these are the kind of things I do when I'm locked up in this house here for a year. So I like to think that I took a negative and made it into a positive. And hopefully, most people out there did the same, and hopefully you did as well. Just keep your mind occupied and just, look towards the future. So it looks like the future is now. So it's a great thing. So onward and upward for myself and everybody else out there, you as well.
I want to ask, is Carnivore AD going to be producing any new music, or are you just keeping it straight to the classics?
Pretty much straight to the classics, to be honest. I mean, to produce any new music without Pete, it doesn't seem like it's possible. Because, I mean, he was the principal writer of everything, as was the case in Type O Negative, this band after Carnivore, of course. So I mean, replicating the sound and playing the songs is one thing, because those are all his compositions. So in a lot of ways, he's kind of there with us, we feel, even though he's not, physically on this earth anymore. But, through music and art, you can achieve some sort of immortality. So I feel in a live situation, he is there with us. But in a recording situation, to start something from scratch, he wouldn't be there with us, and it doesn't seem right, to be honest. So, I mean, anything is possible in the future, but as for where we are right now, it's about recreating the classics, the 2 albums that Carnivore had, getting out there and bringing it to everybody, bringing it to the people that weren't around back then and were curious of what it was all about, and also to the people that were around back then but wanted to hear more. And I'm one of those people. So we're going to pretty much keep it to the live situation. But as I said, never say never. Anything is possible. As we've learned this past year, anything can happen. But right now, it's about recreating the repertoire and maintaining the legacy. That's pretty much where it all stands now.
Awesome. That's great that you're doing that.
Yeah, thank you. It's like I said, it's just it's been a tremendous experience and a very humbling one, and something very personal. Pete was an old friend of mine from Brooklyn, and we all came out of the same scene. And we could be on here for hours. I could tell you all sorts of funny stories and things like that. So, in a lot of ways, it's almost as much of a tribute to the old school metal and hardcore scene as well as it is to Carnivore specifically. And again, places I mentioned before, CBGB's and Lemoore, we all came out of that scene. So it's a real stroll down memory lane, and like I said, it's been a tremendous honor, and I'm glad that the public hasn't forgotten and people still give a shit about us, and we can get back to work. So we just want to get back to work. That's the bottom line, So
yeah.
We're workaholics.
Now, I also want to bring up you're involved in some other projects, and how's about the comic, the vampire comic?
I'd love to. Well, the comic was another project that came out of the insanity of the lockdown. Same thing with the Motorhead Plasmatics thing that I mentioned before. If it wasn't for the lockdown, these projects probably wouldn't have happened, to be honest. The comic book initially had been done some years back in a black and white format, but it was decided to do everything, to colorize the interior completely. That came about by my good friend Chris McCauley, who also works with the Bram Stoker enterprise. Stoker McCauley is the name of the company. Bram Stoker, of course, the author of Dracula. So he just approached me one day about. He's like, "Oh, would you like me to colorize your comic book?" I'm like, "Sure," because I had brought back some of the older issues online. Again, just out of something to do to keep my sanity in the midst of this lockdown. So he pretty much put the idea in my head, and I'm like, yeah, let's go for it. And then keep joking around. I'm like, oh, do you have a publisher also we could put it out through? And he was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. So and that was Tidal Wave Comics, run by the great Darren Davis, and he was very interested in the book. We got it done, and we put it out there. As simple as that. I actually have some copies of it here. I don't know how well this will look on the screen. Give you an idea of. Well, this was the original incarnate of the book some years back, with the black and white interior, as you can see here. We were kind of going for like like an old school Marvel Comics magazine size comic where everything was like black and white, and also attributed to black and white horror films. And here's where we are now. This is with the colorization from Chris McCauley. Again, I don't know how well you could see that on the screen there.
No, I can see it. It looks really nice.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, it really brought everything into a new stratosphere, into a new dimension. As you can see here, I mean, the colors are just very rich tonalities and a very dark palette. It's almost reminiscent of like the Wizard of Oz, where it starts off in black and white and they go into color for the story, the Wizard of Oz film. So that was pretty much it. Funny side story about this. Initially, the original incarnate of the book had some some nudity in some of the female characters. I mean, nothing artistic nudity. I mean, nothing crazy, but you know, topless. So you know, there's a lot of bare breasts in the book. You know, we're trying to compete with Vampirella and Lady Death here. You know what I mean? So 'cause those are the influences of the book, except that there's not a female lead character. Instead, you got me. So, which is a terrible thing to have. So we had to kind of compensate it with some female presence in there. So the original Incarnate has nudity, but that was an issue with the distributors. If we would have kept the nudity, then the book would have been featured, you know, in a plain brown wrapper in the back of the store, face down or something, with a mature audience kind of a thing, and greatly limit the audience. So we definitely didn't want that. So you know, at the last minute, I had to bring someone in to actually draw clothing over the nudity. A great artist based out of Germany, Ash Korvita. She came in there and covered up everyone's private parts in the book, and we were able to get it out there, which is kind of cool. The book almost has like a gothic fashion show kind of quality to it now because of the new outfits that were drawn on. Maybe I could show you a quick example of that here. There's a lot of visual aids here in this interview, as you can see. No one's going to object to nudity on your end, right? So
Yeah, you're all good.
Good. Let me see what I could, real quick, if I can find some. So here's an example. Is that visible? If you could see the one character there.
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, she's kind of topless. I mean, again, this is like artistic nudity. It's nothing really drastic, but it's enough to get the thing, a mature audience, kind of a rating. And again, like I said, greatly diminish the audience. So the artist came in, and that's the same thing, as you can see. So there's a nice like leather gothic bra kind of thing drawn on the female character there.
Oh,
I hope this is visible when we look back on it.
Yeah, it gives a totally different feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it solves any problems we might have had and made the whole thing accessible. So, you know, we're all very happy about that, the publisher and myself. And also, just to give credit to everybody else involved in this project, the cover artist, of course, the great Alex Horley, who's done a lot of work for Marvel and DC and Vampirella and things like that. That was a wonderful cover that he had put together. The interior was done by a great artist, another Marvel and DC contributor, David G. Williams, who's based out in Australia. And we had some great tones that were put in by another artist, Jero Wimberly. So this is a real team, artist dream team or nightmare team, however you want to phrase it. And it's a tremendous honor to have all these guys and ladies here work with me on this. An amazing array of talent. So I really couldn't be happier. And as I said, if it wasn't for us all being locked down in here, we wouldn't have had this new incarnate of it, and the resurrection wouldn't have happened. So thank you, pandemic. You know, not for everything that you've done, but for giving us the opportunity to be able to put that out. So far so good. It's getting some pretty good reviews and great feedback. So we're all excited about it, thinking about issue 2. There's a musical soundtrack behind it, as you heard in the video, more of a goth industrial kind of a thing, which I believe is more your style of music from what James told me. So the idea was for this to be like a multimedia presentation that includes videos and music, and some animation is in the works as well. So it keeps me busy, which is a good thing. I'll do anything to avoid having to get a regular job. So so there you have it. You know.
Yeah, I like that you brought up number 2, because I see in Flesh and Spirit number 1. And I was going to ask, is there another volume coming?
Yeah, absolutely. I already have outlines and scripts for the next 3 issues, and I've had them for a while, dating back to when the book was first done. When it first came out, it was self-published, put out by myself, so I didn't really have like a publisher behind me or anything. So there was really only so much that I could do. But now that we're in a different situation, I'm ready to pick up where I left off on that. So it should be a blast. I mean, it's a real labor of love putting a comic book together, as you can imagine. I mean, all these little pictures and the coloring and everything else, the lettering. I'm also a letterer in the book as well. Lettering is a job that nobody wants to do. Everybody hates it. So I was the last person to point to somebody else, and I ended up becoming the letterer. But it's okay. I mean, that's something else I'm interested in pursuing as well. In some ways, it's good it's good to be comfortable doing a job that nobody wants, because then you'll you'll always be able to get a job because nobody wants a job. So that's how I'm looking at it. So, you know, more on everything as it develops. And again, all products of being locked up here and locked down in this house during this this terrible time in human history. So, so there you have it, you know.
What got you into vampires? Because I'm really into vampires myself.
Okay, right on. It all started when I was a small child going back to The Count on Sesame Street. Believe it or not. I was very fascinated by that character. And actually, even dating back before that, my mother would tell me that I would watch the reruns of the old Dark Shadows TV series when I was a baby in the crib, which I have no recollection of. I remember the Count from Sesame Street and watching him and being heavily into him. But my mother tells me that it goes even further back than that, to the crib and watching the old Dark Shadows reruns. So it was just, it just struck me pretty early on. And then I discovered the old movies and the horror comic books, and here we are. So it's been a wonderful trip here. It's really been a lot of fun. And now I'm in the book, you know, so I always wanted to kind of be in there in the story. So now I've kind of been able to kind of achieve that to some extent. So it's like a real out-of-body experience here. Maybe I'm taking this too seriously, I don't know. But this is the kind of stuff that keeps us going, right? Passions and right, and music and in art. This is what we live for. So it's a beautiful thing.
And I want to ask, did the Queen of the Dam inspire you at all? Because you were saying how you wanted to combine the comic with the music. So.
Well, yeah, Queen of the Damned is great. Maybe it wasn't like a total inspiration, but it's definitely something that I admire, and all the other more recent, you know, vampire films and things like that. The idea of including music in it was just because I'm a musician, so it just seemed like a natural thing for me to do. So maybe I wouldn't say that I drew the influence directly from Queen of the Damned, but again, like I said, it's one of the more recent films that I admire. That and also the Bram Stoker's Dracula that came out in 1990 with Gary Oldman, and even the Interview with the Vampire film adaptation that came out in the 90s as well, with all the mainstream actors. That was actually a pleasant surprise. So, but my real area of concentration and love in regard to cinema is definitely the old films, the black and white films, Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, 1930s and 40s from Universal Pictures. That's really where you know, tremendous inspiration comes from. So it's almost like if you took all of that and put it in a cauldron and put some industrial music in there and stirred it up, and you know, and this is what this is here. It's just a kind of a regurgitation of everything that I've been into, and the artists as well. So it's good to be able to regurgitate this.
Yes, definitely. Now, if people want to find you online, social media, how do they do that? If they want to find either Carnivore AD or your comics online?
Best to find me through my personal pages under Baron Misuraca, either Instagram or Facebook. There's also a Carnivore AD page on Instagram as well. So if you get on those platforms and just you know, just do a search for again, either Baron Misuraca or Carnivore AD, you could find us there. And then there's also the website and social media for Tidal Wave Productions, the publisher as well. A lot of great stuff that they've got going on there. Quite a wide variety of titles and subject matters. Very, very interesting stuff. They don't just deal in superheroes, which is interesting. They do a lot of biography comics. They have a Dolly Parton book they just put out that's really it's really very popular. Actually, Dolly Parton is kicking my ass. I can't compete with her. She's she's selling more books than I am, but it's okay. So you know, so I'm a good company. What more can I ask for? You know, so to be outsold by Dolly Parton is an honor for anybody. So another interesting thing about Tidal Wave Comics I'll add is getting back to the biography comics, they also touch upon political figures on both sides, you know, just as a biography without any commentary. I mean, the last thing I want to do is talk about politics right now, but I always thought it was kind of cool that they would have a Rush Limbaugh comic and then have a you know, President Biden comic as well, put out by the same, and not as an editorial, not like, oh, this one sucks, that one sucks. So I think that's kind of cool. So I'm happy to be, you know, to be in that mix somewhere, and looking forward to getting issue number 2 out. So
awesome. And when do you think we can expect issue number 2 about?
That's a good question. Well, we could expect it anytime we want to, but maybe by the end of the year. Still a lot of logistics that have to get together. Still have to get the team together. Unfortunately, not everybody that worked with me the first time around is available at the moment. So still working on that. More on that as it develops, but it's coming. It'll get there. I mean,
Also,
yeah. Thank you. You know, I mean, there's no time frame or deadline or anything like that, especially since this is a creator-owned kind of a project. So it'll come out when it's ready to come out. But it's coming, and thank you for asking about that. I appreciate that, and thanks to everybody out there that bought the book and read it and was into it. That means the world to us, and that's really what keeps this whole thing afloat. So you know, thank you to everybody.
and I also want to ask, what other projects are you a part of?
Well, I mean, let's see. Well, I mentioned all the musical projects, and then this book here as well. I also do some acting here and there, and some B films, things like that. Everything ties into the horror genre. It seems these are all different vehicles for my conceptualizations. So, and it all comes from the same place. So I'm pretty busy these days. And also the video edits, as you've seen, like the comic book one, and there's been other ones as well for the bands and the music. That's another thing that I keep busy with my partner in crime there, Evan Stramar, who's also a musician in two of the bands as well. He's responsible for putting all that together there. I kind of set like the premise, and then he brings it into reality. So we're keeping busy with that kind of stuff. So it's been a really great creative time, and again, it all stemmed out of this horrible lockdown. So yeah, so those are the main things that I'm occupied with right now, and it's always good getting out there and talking to people and doing the podcast as well. So I've been keeping busy with that, additionally, with more to come. So again, I'll do anything to avoid getting a regular job. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting, like you said, the comic wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the lockdown and pandemic. It's really crazy how that's whole changed everything.
yeah, it really is. It totally is. The resurrection of the comic with the colorization, as I mentioned, it had been done some years back, but this new version with the color, that's totally locked down, and the one band project as well. So yeah, I mean, it is crazy. We all just figured, all right, we're going to have to just deal with it and just try to keep sane and just run to what we always run to in times of trouble: music and art. Right? That's what'll always help us. That'll always be there for us, and it'll never let us down. And this was definitely a time when we needed something that we could depend upon and rely upon. And for me and my colleagues in these projects, it was the music and the art. So yeah, we all probably would have cracked up a long time ago. I think I might have cracked up a little bit, but but not that much, so it's okay. But yeah, and again, we're really glad that we're in the home stretch or whatever. I know it's still going to be some time before everything is the way it's supposed to be, right? But I mean, I'm glad at least we're kind of gearing towards that now, right? It seems like we've kind of crossed over we're approaching the finish. However, whatever corny cliche you want to use for it, we're in a better position now than we were a year ago. Let's put it that way, right?
Oh, yeah, there's a ton of tours booked, and festivals in New York City just announced that they're going to, lift most of their restrictions and stuff. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot what the exact date was. I think there's a few different dates with different restrictions, but something like that. And then the projection is by midsummer, nationwide, everything should be more, almost back to what it was. I believe that was the date the president mentioned. So that's great. It's great to hear that. I mean, I welcome that with open ears. So very good to hear all this. I just hope we don't start up again with it. I got it right. I mean, I think we're all kind of concerned, right? We would hate for everything to just kind of clear up and then start to rise again, and so hopefully that won't be the case. But we'll remain optimistic about it. And everybody still has to be careful, right? I mean, this virus is not a political issue. This is a medical health issue, right? We all got to be smart. Nobody wants to go backwards and go through the same shit that we went through. So I urge everybody out there, like, let's all do everything we can so we don't end up, getting back into this again. So yeah, right. But it is a happy day, and it is a good time that we could be talking about this, right? If we would have talked about this a few months ago, we wouldn't be talking about this right now. We'd still be wondering, oh, what's going on? Who knows what's going to happen? So it's a good thing. But I don't take anything for granted. I don't want to get too optimistic or too relaxed. I don't want to get off my guard yet, So, but everything looks good, and I'm very happy about that. So.
And I want to ask, does Carnivore AD have any plans to play the U.S.? Because I know you had mentioned some European shows.
Right. We're working on it. More on that as it develops. I'm currently in talks with some of the agents that I work with. So that is coming. Europe is definitely the land of opportunity these days in this genre. As much as we love our country, but there's a lot of stuff going on in Europe. The festivals they have in the summer, breathtaking. As I mentioned, we were fortunate enough to be part of a couple of them. So Europe is the place to go for this kind of music, and for goth industrial too. It seems like Europe is definitely very loyal. Where maybe here in the United States, sometimes it's like, oh, the flavor of the month, oh, grunge music or rap metal, whatever's popular. You know what I mean? I feel like Europe definitely hangs on to it and is grateful for it. Metal, industrial, goth, punk, whatever. But we've had some great experiences here in the U.S. and some great festivals. Maryland Death Fest for heavy metal, et cetera, et cetera. So we are definitely working on some stuff here in the U.S. No question about it. Stuff out of New York and things like that. So more on everything as it develops. And again, I'm just really grateful that I'm able to have this discussion with people about actually doing shows, and I'm grateful that the band hasn't been forgotten and people still give a shit. So I count my blessings these days, I must say, really. If we've learned anything from this crazy experience, I think it's that, right? We really got to be grateful for what we have, because it could be taken away at the snap of a finger, and we noticed that it has been. Luckily, we can get it back now. So hopefully we can emerge from this as better people, right? So that's kind of where our head is at. So I'm sure you could definitely relate, So more on everything as it develops.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the in-person interviews again, because I had to switch over to Skype myself with the pandemic. So because I used to do all these interviews in person. So.
Yeah. Remember that, right? When two people sat there and talked back and forth. Remember that? So yeah, it'll be really cool to get back to that. But but we got to give ourselves credit. We've been resourceful, right? We couldn't do that, so all right, we'll get on these stupid platforms and we'll do this then. You know what I mean? They really couldn't knock us down. I think we all figured out a way. It's like, all right, well, if we can't do that, then we'll do it this way. All right, well, then we'll do it that way. So chalk one up to the human spirit, to the American spirit here. We persevered somehow. We made it all happen. So, but I'm glad we don't have to keep doing this, and hopefully eventually we'll be sitting down somewhere and having this discussion, and not have to deal with any technical issues, or at least one set of technical issues, instead of me being here and you being there. So, it's really been a hell of a time. Maybe I'm getting like a delayed reaction from it now. Like now it's all starting to sink in what just happened in the last 14 months. But
Yeah. Well, I look forward to what you have coming up in the future, and it was good talking to you. And everybody, look him up.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. It was definitely a blast, and like I said, I'm glad we hooked up here. It's definitely been a lot of fun, and I look forward to the future and doing this in person or seeing you at a show someday. We've made a lot of new friends here with this Skype, Facebook, Instagram thing. So it'll be cool to continue these friendships, with more of a humanoid interactions.